Hi, good afternoon, everyone. You're very welcome to today's YouTube video. So, I want to ask you the question, why is your business revenue capped and what is it costing you? Now, I have some notes beside me. I have my laptop here, and I just want to share some things that I've written down, and hopefully, you'll be able to identify with those things. I suppose before we begin, I just want to ask a question. What has brought you here? Not physically, but strategically. And why do you feel that it's worth taking that time out, that 10, 15, 20 minutes out of a Saturday to listen to this? My honest answer is most likely it's because your business is feeling some form of friction. In the past, mine was the exact same way. If there's a lot of friction, I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. And thankfully, I went for the mentorship that I needed, got the results, made the changes, implemented them. I brought around the change, and I want to be able to share that with you today to help your business that might be going through friction to be able to loosen it, to be able to release the shackles, and be able to move forward and to feel empowered moving forward. The reality of it is that you're capable, you're hardworking, you're more than willing to do these things in your experience, but yet there's a ceiling within your business. And maybe it's your business has plateaued, maybe the profit margins that you have at the moment are feeling incredibly tight, and maybe just the growth in the business, it feels exhausted to you. And maybe if you're being honest, like I was before, you're incredibly frustrated. And I think every self-employed business owner can relate to that. It's an unbelievable thing when you feel frustrated. Now, I know, and both you know, that you're more capable, that you're capable of an awful lot more. So today really is about why the ceiling exists in our business and what we can do to try and change those ceilings. But more importantly, what is it costing you to leave those things unaddressed? And this video is not even about motivation. It's about identity. It's about self-image, because it's the identity that quietly controls every single thing in our life. So if we look, we all have an invisible financial thermostat. I have one, you have one, our friends and neighbors have one, other businesses that we know have them. But let me ask you something practical. Like if you were to just leave it in the chat box or to ask yourself mentally, what is the average annual revenue that your business has hovered around for the last 3 years? There's always going to be an average. Like, is it consistent? Has it bounced with different or similar numbers? And be honest with the answer. Become vulnerable with those answers. Because most businesses and most of the answers actually hover themselves. Not randomly, but predictably, because you see, your business has a financial thermostat. Every business has a financial thermostat. And most of the self-employers don't have an idea that it was installed years ago. If you set your financial thermostat to about 150,000, then like 250,000 seems completely stressful. 500,000 feels incredibly unrealistic. But look, let's for the next few minutes explore the different ways that you might be feeling at the moment. You might feel that you're overcommitted, that you make rushed hires, that you're underpricing the work that you're bringing into the business. You're overworked, you're losing emotional clarity. And one that I've noted down here is that there's an unnecessary complexity. And really what happens is momentum starts to dip, some good clients start to leave your business, the cash flow tightens and the energy drops. And this happens not because you're incapable, but because your business growth exceeds your identity. Remember, your business growth exceeds your identity, and that's why all those things have happened. But look, let me ask you this question as well. What if you had a great month financially, and then somehow the following month it dipped hard? A lot of businesses will think it's random, but it's not random. It's actually just calibration. Look, I'm going to share a story with you for a few moments. I'm just looking at it here in front of me. It's about one of my clients who had a service-based business. And for nearly a decade, he was earning about 110 to 120,000 euro each year. There was one particular year he reached a breakthrough of nearly 260,000. But something fascinating happened. He started apologizing for his growth. He stopped pushing the premium contracts. He hesitated. He became cautious. And he questions decisions. Within a 2-year period, his revenue had settled back down to about 130 to 140,000 euro. I remember asking him about it, and his answer to me was, just things have slowed down. But I want you to understand that statement is not true. Things just don't slow down. There's a reason for everything. But the real truth is that his identity hadn't expanded with his income. And remember, your nervous system will always protect you from what feels normal to what feels possible. So what's going to happen if you don't make those changes in your business? The reality of it is that what happens if nothing changes? Because part of this is going to be incredibly uncomfortable, but it's important, because if your identity stays exactly as it is today, here's what's likely to occur over the next 5 years. You will work hard, you may slightly grow, but you know what you're going to do? You're going to remain dependent on yourself. You're going to struggle to fully detach from daily operations. You're going to feel the monthly pressures repeatedly. You're going to hesitate when it requires making bold decisions on investments, and you're going to stay in what's called a reactive mode. And here's the deeper cost: your potential will never fully express itself. And that's one that's costing a lot of businesses an awful lot of money. Remember, your potential will never fully express itself. I suppose it can also create something incredibly dangerous. It creates an internal resentment, not towards others, but towards yourself. Because deep down, like you could have built more, you could have done more, and the internal friction accumulates quietly. And many operators burn out not from effort, but from unrealized potential. I suppose I have a quick question. Look, if you were to look exactly the same 3 years from now, the same revenue, the same pressure, the same energy levels, ask yourself, would you be satisfied? I know I wouldn't. Or would something inside you feel unresolved? Because the discomfort in that is not a greed. It's actually a growth instinct. And it's important that we understand that. And the root of all this comes around from our self-image. So the self-image is the internal blueprint of what you believe. Or I should say the self-image blueprint is the internal blueprint of who you believe that you are. It was formed through the childhood. It was formed from your parents. Maybe your grandparents reared you. It was formed through the schooling that you received, cultural conditions, the past results that you received in your life. You could have been one that grew up hearing, like, who do you think you are? Don't be getting too big for your boots. Stay grounded. Money changes people. Money doesn't grow on trees. And this is all the internal conditioning that we take on board when we're young, not even realizing that we're listening and taking this on board. So somewhere inside, success may feel incredibly unsafe to you, but when revenue expands, the subconscious wants to naturally slow it down, not because of sabotage, because of protection. You protect belonging, you protect familiarity, and unless your self-image expands, your results are just going to return back to where they once were, basically at baseline. So look, if tomorrow your revenue doubled, which is be fantastic, would your identity support it? Would you lead stronger? Would you delegate more consistently and more confidently? And would you be able to raise those standards? Ask yourself what standards you're bringing into your business. Or are you going to be a business that's going to panic? Are you going to micromanage? Or are you going to work longer hours? It's your emotional reaction to these questions that reveals your identity capacity. And it's really important that you ask yourself, am I prepared to either raise my standards, or am I going to go back to where I once was, panicking, micromanaging, and working longer hours, not working more effectively by any means? And the problem is that a lot of businesses get a guilt. They get a guilt and a sense of belonging because one client will struggle to raise prices, and every time that demand increased, he'd pull back. So when we explore deeper, we ask ourselves, what is it that's stopping you from being successful in your business? The client that I knew said the reason he didn't want to become more successful because he wouldn't fit in with his friends. It's not even logical. It's crazy. But it's real. It's the truth. It's what people think of. So when we work on identity and not tactics. So what we're actually trying to do is stop a person from shrinking, help them to lead stronger, and helping them to create that revenue that they truly want. Because remember, this is a really critical line. I've highlighted in black in front of me here. Success feels threatening when identity has not expanded to hold it. And a lot of this then is about the awareness that we have, because there's a real hard truth here that you can understand everything that we're speaking about over the next few minutes, or you can go back and revert back to where you once were. It's totally up to yourself what you're most comfortable with. Remember, your identity, it's in your subconscious. It's conditioned by repetition. It's conditioned by the environment. It's conditioned by the language. It's conditioned by the standards. And it's conditioned by the proximity. So ask yourself, what is the environment that you're in at the present moment? Who do you surround yourself with? What is the language that you're using out of your mouth every day? What books are you reading? What programs are you watching to try and enhance your business? What are your standards? Is there a particular level of income that you're going to make a decision on that you will never go below that again? Really important that we start to get to grips with these things. And that's why short bursts of motivation don't create permanent growth for any business. Identity installation, it actually requires a particular structure. It requires deliberate reconditioning, and it requires accountability, and it requires, which I think is probably one of the most important, is the repetition. It's like the guy that we know might be playing football. Every single time he's out with the football, he's going to score a goal or whatever it might be. He practices that 1,000 times until he becomes perfect at that. It's repetition. Everything is about that repetition, and also about bringing discipline into the business. And that's why some businesses, make that breakthrough, make that massive financial breakthrough, and then others just hover. So we start to understand now why these things happen. It's all about the identity. It's all about the self-image and how we see ourselves each and every day. So look, before we finish up this short talk, I just wanted to remember something, that the frustration in business isn't just about effort. It really is unrealized potential. It's the quiet knowing that you could build an awful lot more. But is there something inside you that keeps you playing safe? Look, I've been there. I've, worked hard, doing well, but I was hovering. And the truth is, I was knowing that I hadn't fully stepped into who I really wanted to become. So when identity shifts, decisions change, standards change, conversations change, and revenues follow. Now, not overnight, but permanently. And nobody deserves to build a life below their true capacity. So remember, your business is not capped by an economy, and your identity cannot be upgraded. It's really important that we start to understand those things in our business today. So look, I hope this really short video has been some help to somebody. I thank you for your patience and joining me today, and I wish you the very best in your own business. And if there's anything that we can help you with, please send us, give us a comment below, please. And thank you. God bless and have a great day.